Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with an awesome new knife consult for you. In front of us is the Liong Mah 15. Really, the name of the knife is XV, which are the Roman numerals for the number 15. 15 being the number of years that Liong Mah has been designing and making knives. Now, this knife is actually made by the folks over at Riot Knives. Liong details on his website that David Dang and his team have done an exceptional job of executing his very first ever integral handled knife with some very special features, and we're going to go through all that. But before we go ahead and break this down, let's get some vital signs on this guy. This is a very big knife. This is coming in with a 4-inch blade here. I'm going to get the measurements going right. We've got 4 inches of cutting length. Honestly, you might even say the blade is 4.1 inches back to the handle. You're looking at about 4.5 back to the pivot, maybe 4.6, and overall about 9.2 inches. Very big overall size right here. Looking at about a 5-inch handle right there. The effective grip area, and I'm going to include this forward finger choil area, is about 5.25, and without that is about 4 and 4.4, something like that. Some other critical specs on this guy. The width is coming in here at 0.53 inches, and the blade stock is coming in at 157 thousandths. So it is thick and robust in the handle with the titanium, and it has a strong blade stock there at 157 thousandths. But because of all the milling that's going on here, it actually keeps the weight down to a nice 4.81 ounces. So for a 4-inch knife with an integral handle, you're looking at sub 5 ounces. That's quite impressive right off the bat. Let's go ahead and break this knife down anatomically so we can see what we're working with. Up front is this very, very nice blade of S35VN steel. I really enjoy this particular grind. He did this same sort of compound tanto grind on the Warrior 2 model. This is a bigger version coming in at 4 inches right here. It's a beautiful grind. It's got a hollow grind here on the primary bevel, a flat grind out here, a nice swedge up top. These hand-rubbed satin flats. These blades, they do claim, are hand ground by the individuals over at Riot, so very, very nice. It has some very unique jimping up top. It reminds me a bit of the R.J. Martin jimping on the 0606 and 0609, actually, which I have right here, which is sort of this more sort of natural looking, almost scale type jimping going on there. There's a little bit of that going on this knife as well. Speaking of comparing it to some other knives, let me bring out another couple of knives for a size comparison. I didn't do that a minute ago. Here is the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and Para 3. So you can see this knife dwarfs both of these. I've got another couple of interesting knives that I thought would be a nice size comparison. Here's a Grimsmo Knives Norseman and a Grimsmo Knives Rask. I just happen to have these two knives, so I thought it would be a nice comparison. You can see that this knife is even bigger than a Norseman, which is already a pretty sizable knife right there. So I'm going to put all these blades away safely. All right, so we were talking about that blade. Really, really nicely done. It slices very, very well. The hollow grind comes down to a nice thin area right behind the edge, and it slices well. That jimping is quite nice on the thumb. It provides a nice traction point, both in the standard grip and in the sort of overhand grip right here. I find myself doing this action a lot with knives, this cutting action, and so it's nice to have a little traction point right there to be able to reach up and get some traction on that blade. So I do like that. There's a little area right here that functions as a forward finger choil, and you can choke up on the knife. Be aware there is no guard, so you will slide up if you're doing anything sort of very tough in terms of stabbing it forward, but you can choke up for some finer work if you need that. What that also does is it allows the blade to tuck into the handle deep enough so that it's not going to cut you back here. We'll talk about that in just a moment. The blade, I think, is excellent. It is probably my favorite overall part of the knife because of the way it looks and because of the way it's executed. It functions very well, and I just have no complaints with it. So moving back to the pivot here, this runs on presumably ceramic ball bearings on the inside of this. I have not disassembled this knife. I may end up doing that here just for interest. But Most Riot knives run on ceramic ball bearing systems, and this pivot is very, very smooth. I really enjoy the opening action and the closing deployment. The blade does drop down very nicely. The detent is just strong enough to provide a very snappy action, but not overpower the blade on the way back down. So I do really like that. I do enjoy the custom pivot hardware, I guess in essence, in the sense that it's not the same as it is on a lot of other knives, but it is the same as on a few of the other Liong Mah knives. You know, if you're going to release a 15th edition, 15th year anniversary edition, you know, maybe use a new pivot? I don't know, maybe not. It's just a personal thing. Could have been better. It could have been better, I think. Here you can see that the stop pin is quite solidly affixed with these external screws right there, so that's pretty nice. Very nice action in detent. Honestly, no complaints there either. Very nice, standard Riot action, expected smoothness, expected solid lockup. Very, very nice action. Now let's move back to the handles, because I really want to discuss this, because this is quite controversial to me. This is an integral handled knife. That's something that I truly enjoy. One of my favorite knives ever, if not my favorite knife ever. The Peter Rosenti Nirvana is also an integral handled knife. I actually have a VDK War Admiral here that's also an integral handled knife. What that means is that the handles are milled from a solid piece of metal, in this case titanium, and so it's a very impressive technological and engineering feat to achieve this. The added bonus that Liong designed into this one are these windows right here, and these are in a similar sort of fashion to windows that the other custom knife maker Michael Birch is famous for. He makes sort of ventilated or windowed knives, and they're very unique. These are not exactly the same as what Mr. Birch makes in his knives, but it is similar, and so Liong did get permission to make this. Now, I will say that these windows do a couple of things that I really don't like. Number one, they sort of provide a sort of a strange visual area. I don't really like the way they look. They're sort of patterned irregularly in all regards. No one is the same size or shape as the other. If you look inside the actual squares and the holes that are milled here, you can actually see through the knife. If you get it perfectly lined up, it's cool. It's a nice effect right there. But none of those holes are lined up within these little cubes, squares. They're all irregular in terms of their alignment, and it just frustrates me to no end because, you know, I just have that kind of OCD. And so it also has been anodized blue on the inside. That's sort of cool, but also sort of looks a little bit funny as you look around the edges. It's just not my favorite look. They offer this in a few different colors. There's a full blue, there's a stonewash with a satin blade, there's a black DLC version with blue hardware. Each one looks a little bit different. This is really one of those things that's going to be up to personal taste. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it could have been done a little bit better. What these windows also do is provide a bit of an uncomfortable spot in a lot of different grips. When you're holding the knife just like this, your fingers don't really fall naturally into any of those things, and it's not so super comfortable. Also here, your thumb falls into it. It's not the most comfortable thing. And then when you're holding it in your hand and you're manipulating it and trying to flip it, your fingers rest on sort of weird areas on the back and on the front, and it's just it's an ergonomic, you know, misstep, I think, because the rest of the handle looks like it would be so comfortable. If I look at the knife just like this, look at this handle, this curvature, the smoothness. I bet if he had kept this smooth or done some different milling, it could have been an ergonomic dream come true, and I probably would have picked it up. I think that these windows are the most controversial thing and made me personally not want to buy the knife. It does have a steel lock bar insert put in right here. One other thing I'll complain about is that the pocket clip is practically unusable. It has so much tension on it. There's almost no spring, and that honestly hurts my finger trying to lift that up. There's so much spring. I couldn't put this through the thinnest material easily without a lot of pressure. It does have that beg style ceramic ball bearing, and it is reversible, but it's also unusable, so that is a thing. So tell me about your experience with this knife. I think it is a really cool engineering feat, but I think it just missed a few critical things to make me not want to buy this knife. Tell me what you think of it down below in the comments. I usually like Liong Mah's designs. Go ahead and click like and subscribe to my channel here. Follow me on Instagram at Dr. Frunkey. And as always, guys, take care.